Hi, it's Element 39 again, and today we're gonna be talking about bees. Because why not? Like, why wouldn't you want to talk about bees? Bees are amazing. They are smart, capable insects, and the diversity of their habits and behavior is an example of evolution at its best. And the way that they evolved hand in hand with the partners of flowers is also very, very cool. Their hierarchy and fairness towards everyone in the hive is one that rivals the human structure, and the systematic order of jobs is better, even if it is stricter. Along with producing their sweet, gooey gold called honey, they are also crucial to the ecosystem, pollinating 3/4 of the world's plants and crops, allowing them to fruit and spread their seeds and grow again. Most domesticated honeybees are from the genus Apis, most coming from Apis mellifera and sometimes Apis cerana. The other main family is Bombus, which is the bumblebee family. Even within these two species, there are many subspecies, like the Japanese honeybee, Apis cerana japonica, or the African honeybee, which is Apis mellifera scalatra. For new beekeepers, choosing the right strain of bees can help them in overcoming fears and suspicions about bees, as well as teaching them to respect and love them. Teaching the right techniques to the new bees can also help them understand how important they are to us. Some of the few commercialized bees are the Russian honeybee, Italian honeybee, Caucasian honeybee, and the Carnolian honeybee. Each of these bees have positive traits with commercial potentials, such as disease-resistant honey making and pollination, all of which are positive for obvious reasons, but also obvious downsides, such as swarming and hive robbing. All are used widely by beekeepers around the world. Russian honeybees are good for beekeepers who want a disease-resistant strain that will not be susceptible to viral mites or hive beetles. The Russian honeybees evolved these traits of constant self-cleaning, unlike other bees, because the specific parasites was present with the bees. Russian honeybees, however, have a huge problem of hive robbing, where they steal honey from weaker hives, meaning likely spread of viruses and pests, and use lots of propolis, a sticky, gooey chemical concoction that is made of various resins collected from the surrounding regions. Propolis, though very useful against protecting the bee from parasites and viruses, cause a very sticky mess when seen inside the honeycomb, which can be difficult to deal with for the newbies. They are also more aggressive and guard their hive furiously, so they are less likely to be robbed by other hives. The Italian honeybee is a very beautiful honeybee with a yellow hue and black bands around their abdomen. The Italian honeybee is the most widely used strain of honeybee there is in the world. They are good honeycomb producers and are very gentle, which are good traits for the new beekeeper. However, they are prone to swarming and have a bad sense of direction, which leads to hive robbing and pickup of new diseases. Since they do not have the same amount of resistance as the Russian honeybees do, it may be bad news for the hive. Because the Italians also are good foragers, they in turn make more honey, although if the beekeeper lives in the north, where it is colder, the bees need more honey for the winter stores. Italian honeybees are better for honey than other bees, and are a very good choice for the new beekeepers. Interestingly enough, there are two known Italian honeybees. The Cordovian honeybee is a type of Italian honeybee that mysteriously split from the Italians. Other than slightly gentler and more prone to hive robbing, Cordovians share the same characteristics as Italians. The Caucasian honeybees are another strain of honeybees, like the Russian honeybee, who love using propolis and are also prone to robbing honey from the other hives. However, Caucasians are extremely adaptable to harsh weather conditions and are good pollen collectors due to being able to forage on colder days than most other breeds, and are able to take advantage of the nectar resources more readily, as they have longer proboscises and show some resistance to the European foulbrood bacteria. They are more gentle than the Italians, but not on the same level as the Italians when it comes to honeycomb making. When it comes to larvae, Caucasians are surprisingly well prepared. When the bee sense that it is autumn, they immediately stop brood production, making sure that there is enough supplies for winter, called overwintering. Carniolan are another good choice for the beekeeper. They are gentle and are incredibly adaptable to food shortages, curtailing worker production if there is not enough honey in the hive. Carniolan honeybees are also more resistant to parasites, though not to the extent of the Russian honeybees. However, they are more likely to swarm than Italians, meaning that to keep them means a lot of space. The Carniolans also show good resistance to parasites and to some other diseases. Like the Caucasians, Carniolans are very good at overwintering, keeping hive populations low so that the food stores will not run out while in winter. Carniolans don't slack off either on cold days. They are much more likely than other bees to go out and forage on cold, wet days. Bees have complex and social hierarchies that are strict and layered. Each member of the hierarchy is treated differently from birth to death. There are 3 main bees in the hive: queens, workers, and drones. Each bee has a vital and unique role in the development and sustainability of the hive. No queen and the hive will die out in the population, no workers and there is no one to care for the new larva or the queen, and no drones means that there is a failure to pass on the hive's genes. Are at the top of the rigid social hierarchies of the honeybee hive, treated with a differential treatment starting from birth. The queen, unlike what her job title says, is a reproductive slave to the colony, producing eggs throughout her 3 to 4 year life, which is actually pretty long compared to the average worker bees, but whatever. Starting from birth, she is one of the thousands upon thousands of bee larvae born by the previous queen bee. Each of them is fed a nutritious jelly of sugars, the B vitamins, and the major royal jelly proteins, or the MRJP. The MRJP proteins are a class of proteins naturally found in royal jelly, the most common of them called royal actin, that boosts fertility in the larvae. In the first few days after being hatched, most of the female larvae destined to become the workers are put off the royal jelly and instead to a less nutritious food called bee bread, which does the opposite of what the royal jelly does. It suppresses the functions of the worker bees that will allow it to reproduce. For the handful of bees left in royal jelly, one of them will become the future queen bee. As the bee larvae matures, the features of the bees that separate them from other worker bees start to appear, such as ovaries. When the first queen bee emerges from her wax cell, she will sting all of her other sisters, ensuring that she is the queen. However, when 2 or more queens emerge at the same time, they will fight to the death until one survives. When the queen bee reaches sexual maturity, she will fly to a distant hive to meet with the males, called drones. Arrives in her hive, she takes a portion of the worker bees with her and flying off to start a new hive in a place that is suitable for a colony. For the majority of her life afterwards, she is fed by the worker bees by the same concoction called royal jelly and lays up to 2,000 eggs a day. The workers bring their eggs to hatch into the workers and drones. At the end of the queen's reign, the bees that are left choose a select few larvae that will become queens, starting the cycle all over again. The queen bee's anatomy is similar to the anatomy of the worker bees, except for a few minor differences. Firstly, the queen bee's abdomen is tapered to make egg laying easier, unlike many other workers whose abdomen is more flattened out instead of tapered. The abdomen of a queen bee is also vastly different to that of other social insect queens, such as termites and ants, whose abdomens are bulging with eggs. The queen bee, as mentioned earlier, has a sting, and unlike her worker sisters, has no barbs, making it reusable for its entire life. The queen bee also has a shorter proboscis, which is a long, flexible mouthpart that she does not need to gather pollen and honey. Worker bees are the operators of the hive. They clean and care for larvae, collect and feed the hive, plus clean and nourish the queen. They keep their gears turning and make sure that the hive is up and running. Worker bees are female, like the queen, but aren't fertile. The worker bees originated, like the queen, as larvae, but as they reach 3 days old, they are switched to a less nutritious food called bee bread, made out of fermented pollen and honey. The worker bee's lifespan might vary depending on the season that she was born in. A worker bee born in the summer will at most live up to 6 weeks, dying of exhaustion, while in the winter they can live from 4 to 9 months, so they literally work themselves to death. Consider yourselves lucky, humans! The worker bee starts her life in an egg from the queen bee, where she lies in her cell constantly eating the worker's royal jelly until they're 3 days old, then switch to bee bread. The bee bread contains chemicals that do the opposite to royal jelly. They sterilize the bee, making it hard to reproduce. Within 5 days of feeding the bee bread, the baby larvae have swelled to over 1,500 times the original egg size. At this point, the bee larva spins a cocoon around itself, and the adult workers seal the cell with a thin layer of porous wax to allow the larvae to breathe. Underneath the waxen cocoon, the white grub is slowly metamorphosing into a bee. The coloration starts appearing in the eyes, then the fine hair that covers the bee starts developing, all in a period of 12 days. Adult bee chews her way out of the wax cell and starts a brief life as a worker bee. From days 1 to 3, the worker thoroughly cleans the cell she was born in and leaves it spotless for another bee to be born in. If the cell isn't spotless, the queen will refuse to lay eggs in the dirty cell until it is immaculate. Then for the next few weeks, the young bees will remove any bees that have died and dispose of the corpse as far away as possible to stop disease spreading in the colony. All bees that are sick or diseased will also have to be disposed of while tending to the queen bee in the same period of time. Only when the bee is 22 days old does it go out to venture for nectar and honey. They progressively widen their radius to pollinate as they grow older. For the bees born in winter, the main cause of death will be of old age. In summer, it will most likely be of exhaustion. Either way, the single bee loss will not be of trouble to the hive, as the queen constantly lays eggs every day. The worker bee has many distinguishing features from queens or drones. As a worker, the abdomen is more rounded off than a queen's, and there is a minute sting that is barbed at the end of the abdomen. The worker bees have long proboscises that they use to drink the nectar and flowers. Worker bees will have minute white hairs that may be tinged with pollen's distinctive yellow hue, and after a pollination, yellow packs on her hind legs. Workers also have whitish flakes on their abdomens, as this is the beeswax that they use. One of the most important reasons humans keep bees as pets and as livestock is because of the sweet, sugary substance they create, honey. When a bee arrives on her flower, she extends a long proboscis ready to sip the nectar to be stored in her honey stomach. While the nectar is in the bee's mouth, a special enzyme called invertase slowly breaks down the nectar's long sugars into simpler ones so that the honey has a longer shelf life before being transported into the honey stomach. When full, the honey stomach weighs almost as much as the bee itself. Once the honey stomach is full, the worker bee flies back to the hive and vomits out the nectar into another bee's mouth and goes back to gather nectar. I can almost imagine the bees going like, bleh. Right, Bob, I'm off to collect more. Bye. The bee that receives that worker's nectar will vomit the syrup out again and again and again to other bees, and each time the bee vomits it out, bleh, it is mixed with more of that invertase. Disgusting. Once the Chinese whispers chain of nectar vomiting is over, the last bee will vomit the honey out into a beeswax cell, then flap their wings so that the water concentration goes down from 80 to 95% water to about 20%. So it's now basically concentrated bee spit. Have fun eating honey after this video! Before capping it with beeswax is stored as a food source in winter. The honey making process is vitally important to the hive and to the flowers, as with every sip of nectar, the flower's pollen rubs onto the bee's fuzzy body, and when she flits to another flower of the same species, the pollen on her body will rub against the ovaries of the plant, leading to fertilization and production of seeds. Yay! Drones are the fertile counterpart to the queen bee, produce the fertilized virgin queens that travel to distant hives every summer to mate, after which they die. Drones make up a small percentage, usually in the hundreds and rarely in the thousands of bees in the hive. Despite their huge needs and relative laziness, the female workers will tolerate and attend to their every need in the summer, grooming and feeding them. Drones are the result of the queen laying an unfertilized egg in a specially crafted cell for drones that is slightly wider. Drones are fed both royal jelly and bee bread, unlike the workers and the queens, before being sealed with a thin layer of porous wax to undergo a 24-day pupation to become an adult drone. After the drone has pupated, he too, like the workers, will chew through the wax layer and sit in the cell for several days to regain his strength. Contrary to popular belief, drones do not lie around close to the hive to mate with the emerging queen, but instead fly out to a drone mating area nearly 200 to 300 meters in the air to mate. The drone mating area can be up to 1 mile away from the hive, and to keep a drone's weight up, it means flapping their wings at more than 200 times a second. The drones will need to use their eyes to spot the mating queen, as only around 5 to 12 drones will get to mate with that queen, or a 1 in 1,000 chance. If the drones do not get a chance to mate, they will defend the hive and go to mate again the next day. When the weather gets cooler, the workers will literally start to boot out the drones because they will deplete the resources of the hive too quickly for winter. The drones have big appetites and will normally eat a lot compared to the workers, which is obviously a problem. Drones have larger eyes that take up most of their heads, used to spot virgin queens in the mating season, and a stubbier abdomen. Drones can be also distinguished from female workers as they do not have stings and are slightly longer than workers but are shorter than the queen bee, which is the tallest in the hive. Drones also have shorter proboscises as they do not collect pollen or nectar and do not sting. Bees are fearless creatures who would sacrifice their lives for the safety of their hive. Bees have been evolving with the predators for many millennia, and as a result, some have developed new and curious methods for defense. Africanized honeybees are aggressive, and I mean aggressive, but they were never meant to exist. They were the product of a mistake from Brazil. Africanized honeybees are the result of interbreeding between the European honeybees and the African honeybees in an attempt to widen Brazil's honey industry, a project headed by Warwick E. Kerr, a Brazilian scientist who wanted to expand Brazil's honey industry. The African honeybees evolved these instincts after finding themselves separated from their genetic cousins, the European honeybee, and finding themselves in the midst of honey badgers, which is one of the few animals that can break into a beehive. So the African honeybees needed to be fierce so as to deter the honey badger. The African honeybees also focus their energy more onto rearing the hive, producing more workers, and less on honey making an incoming intruder a big threat. On one weekend in 1957, while Kerr was on holiday, a visiting beekeeper noticed that a piece called the queen excluder was interfering with the worker bee's movement and accidentally released 26 Africanized honeybee queens. Because Africanized honeybees are a hybrid species, they can live in both the more temperate climates and the tropical temperatures and possess similar traits from both species, most importantly the aggressiveness of the African strain. The Africanized honeybee is also a problematic introduced species as they compete for the same resources as their European counterparts and most of the time win. The species of bee is not tamed and currently doesn't have any uses because their aggressiveness is a huge problem. About 1,000 people have died due to these aggressive bees, due to the fact that they are much more likely to sting than a regular European honeybee. Asian giant hornets are no little threat. The giant and ferocious plus can decimate entire colonies of Apis mellifera alone. The war against the honeybees seems over, but the Japanese honeybees are fighting back. Asian giant hornets, or the murder hornet, is the largest hornet species in the world, and its sting is extremely painful. Its wingspan is approximately half a centimeter, and its sting can kill you if it stings you enough times. 30 Asian giant hornets can decimate 300,000 Apis mellifera bees in 3 minutes. However, scientists in a 1995 study have found that Japanese honeybees have a unique strategy to defend themselves at their hives. Hot, defensive bee balls. Sounds nice. Well, actually no, if you think about it. The complete process is an intricate ballet of strategy, defense, and sneakiness. The first act of the ballet starts when the hornet scout finds a hive while searching for the hornet nest's autumn food supply and sees a suitable hive loaded with honey for her taking. She flies over and smears a pheromone on the nest that only the hornets can smell and attempts to fly back onto the nest. This is when the bees take over. The bees mark the wasp with their own pheromone that they can only smell and lure the hornet into the hive, daring it to eat one of their brethren. When the wasp succumbs to the temptation and the Japanese honeybees swarm over the wasp, this time a new act starts. In Act 2, all hell breaks loose, and the Japanese honeybees just completely swarm over, swearing vengeance for their fallen brethren. The Japanese honeybees will vibrate their abdomens, generating heat. The wasp is cocooned inside, and as the heat mounts, the hornet cannot live. The bees are very smart here. As the wasp reaches the fatal temperature, which is close to 46 degrees Celsius, while they can survive up to 50. The Japanese honeybees will sustain the temperature for several minutes or until the hornet dies of heat exhaustion and fatal core temperatures. After the hornet has died, the bees go out and mask the pheromone, cleaning it so that other hornets don't find the hive. Bees are like humans. They have complex social hierarchies and will do anything to protect their hive and their honey. With that responsibility, the bees need a way of communicating, especially with food sources. Bees have 2 main ways to communicate using body language: the round dance and the waggle dance. The circle dance, also known as the round dance, and the waggle dance is used by the forager bees as a method of finding a new sustainable food sources that are close to the hive, about 50 to 150 meters away at maximum. The female worker bee will dance around in a circle, and the scent of the worker communicates the source of the food. So if it smelled like pollen, then you would know it's pollen if you were a bee. The worker will communicate the distance and the place relative to a fashion similar in the waggle dance. If the dance is going up the honeycombs, it means in the direction of the sun. The bees can calculate angles too. If the bee is heading downwards the hives and 30 degrees to the left, the bees know what degree to be looking for and will fly in that direction. Because every single flight takes energy, the forager bee has to evaluate the energy cost of the place. Most time when the circle dance is performed, the food place exceeds those expectations, meaning that the richness of the food there justifies the energy cost. The waggle dance is similar to the round dance, with the bees performing it thinking the same way that they would perform the round/circle dance. The waggle dance, however, is used for food sources that are rich but much further away. The waggle dance indicates the location and the direction of the flowers relative to the hive. Performing the waggle dance straight up the honeycombs means that the bees need to fly in the direction of the sun, and any tilt to the left or right of the sun means that the location is straight in that direction relative to the sun. The waggle dance starts off with a female worker walking in a straight line and wagging her body and vibrating her wings before looping around and repeating in a figure eight. The longer the waggle is at the beginning, the further the food source is. The more excited the bee is, the more furious the wagging of the abdomen and the vibration of her wings would be, and the better the food source. Bees existed 135 million years ago, long before the first humans. In those times, the modern bees did not exist yet, though there were butterflies. In those times when there were no bees, and the beautiful flowers that we see today like the foxgloves and the beautiful tiger lilies did not exist. Instead, they blended into the green foliage, with their brown buds open, letting the pollen spread out into the wind, which was a total and complete utter waste. The wind was inefficient, as over 90% of the pollen was wasted, blown out to sea or landed on a mountain, far away from where the flower wanted it to land. At this stage, bees had not been separated from their mortal enemies, the wasps, yet. Scientists disagree how, but most agree that the first modern bees appeared around 130 million years ago. Some say the bees evolved because Sphecidae, queen, brought pollen into the hive as a protein supplement, but others say otherwise. The first bee fossil appeared around 80 million years ago, and it is encased in amber, but scientists agree that bees existed long before that. As time went on, bees started evolving with their partners, the flowers. Over time, flowers started producing less and less of the nectar, as it was expensive to produce large amounts of it, and more of the pollen, making sure that for the bees to have a taste of the sweet nectar, they would absolutely take some pollen with them. At the same time, the bees had upgraded their gear to include pollen pouches and fuzzy bodies, which increased their capacity and longer proboscises to suck up all of that nectar. The bees had also spread out over the lands, being separated from each other. Some, like the Russian honeybee, evolved alongside some of the most fearsome pests, like Varroa destructor, while others evolved smart defenses against fearsome predators. When humans arrived on the scene, there were already many species of bees and lots more honey. Bees are fascinating creatures. They are smart and capable of doing their jobs with efficiency. So much of what we know about bees is swamped by what we do not know, and what is mentioned in this video is a fraction of that fraction. There are so many more exciting discoveries out there to be found about bees, but in the future there will be no bees left. Bees are experiencing massive rates of decline, dropping from 5 million hives in 1988 America to 2.5 million in 2015. That's like half of the entire population of hives in America gone. Kaput, finito, however you like to put it, it's just gone. Seriously, Bees are dying out due to a number of parasites upping their game in recent decades and the use of insecticides called neonicotinoids, which contribute a lot more to this. The bees become disorientated, and as the insecticide builds up in the bee can't find its way home. It loses its compass, and it dies away from the hive. You can help the bees by not using insecticides for many small pests like aphids, but instead using their natural predators to hunt them down, as well as planting many types of different flowers for the local bees to enjoy pollinating. If you are already a beekeeper, you can look for signs of potential varroa mite infections and stop it from continuing any further. You can take your bees to a community garden to pollinate the plants there and teach others about these wonderful insects. Also, don't watch the bee movie. It's insult to bees. It's an insult to bees. Don't watch the bee movie, okay? Just please don't. You can help bees that way, okay? So. Hi, it's Lemma39 again. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, and see you in the next video.